Go for liftoff in T-minus 30.
Stand by for further instructions, Minnesota Black Room Regiment.
Secondary guidance systems engaged.
Minnesota Black Room Regiment, it will be on my mark.
All systems are a go. All systems are a go.
Minnesota Black Room Regiment, you are over the target. You are authorized to fire at will.
Hey, hello. I know that it's Thanksgiving and there's going to be a lot of you that are wrapped up watching football, eating turkey, or whatever it is you eat for Thanksgiving, and wondering to yourself, for the love of all that's holy, TC, what the hell are you doing a stream on Thanksgiving, and why do I feel like you're going to be bringing us down? Well, first of all, happy Thanksgiving. Second of all, I want us to reminisce together a little bit, if you will, about where we are and where we were 2 years ago for this holiday, and whether or not we have really, should I say, come full circle and return to where we were prior to spring, summer, fall, and winter of 2020 and into 2021. And I'd started this video. I'd started to do this earlier as a live stream, kind of as a dinner time dialectics, because the house was empty with everybody but me, because we're not really doing a Thanksgiving per se today, and I'm actually really good with that. I don't mind. But the household was out for a walk, and as I was putting some stuff in the oven and making a sauce for cheesecake later, they came back early because it's a little too cold for these Minnesotans in my family. And so I just ended the stream and then deleted it. So instead of a dinner time dialectics, you're just going to get a rambling TC. And if you're watching in the live chat, throw me a howdy or, happy Thanksgiving or something. Or you can send me a super chat. I'd be okay with. I'd be all right with that. Anyway. So I want you guys to think about in a lot of states, Minnesota in particular, but a lot of states across the United States 2 years ago for this holiday. Hey, Sarah. 2 years ago for this holiday, who were you? Are you the same person today that you were 2 years ago? And we've all changed, right? I mean, right? Like I've changed. I am not exactly the same person today as I was 2 years ago. Hey, happy Thanksgiving, Dana, and you, Sarah, as well. Thanks for tuning in. Two of my craziest fans. It's anyway. Love you guys. 2 years ago today, none of us were who we are today. None of us, because we all change in time, right? But we can still look at ourselves and say, where was I 2 years ago? What was I thinking about 2 years ago? And like for me, I went into Thanksgiving of 2020 a rebelling dissident. I had spent the better portion of 2020 a dissident, speaking out against everything that was happening. And I'm not saying that to say, hey, look at how wonderful TC is. Look at how wonderful his thought process is and how astute and acute his thinking is. That's not at all what I'm getting at. I just know, like, one of the people watching has told me in conversations as we work towards starting a new series on Rumble. She has said, I wasn't paying attention. You were definitely awake before I was. And that there again, it's not a contest. I want people to understand that it's not a contest. But what I do want people to understand is that we should be different than what we were 2 years ago. And for many of us, that difference should be a broader awakening, if you will. This is a hot chocolate and peppermint schnapps, if you're wondering, because it's a holiday. I'll do something like that. I haven't broke out the Glühwein yet. So let's put this in perspective. 2 years ago, for this holiday in Minnesota, you were criminalized for preparing a meal for more than 10 people in your home if they were not from the same households. So you could have up to one other household in your home, max, one other household. And on top of that, you could have no more than 10 people. So let's say you have a household where you have a child in your home still, you have a child that's out of your home, and you also have siblings and parents. Now you have to choose, who are you going to spend your time with on that holiday? How many people are you going to allow in your home? So let's say if you invite one aspect of that group over, you may hit 10 people or not, right? So if you've got an adult child outside of the home and that adult child is married and they have children, you can't bring anybody else to your house. So you can't have your mom and dad over. Or let's say you happen to be one of those people who lives in a multi-generational family situation. And there are many people who do live that way. Again, here in the United States, it's a growing phenomenon. What if they have 10 people in their family, or let's say they have 8 people in your family and you have 3 people in your household and you're inviting them over, you can't have them over because you've got one too many people by order of the governor of Minnesota or whatever area you're in. And keep in mind that places like South Dakota, Florida, and others, the governors didn't lock anything down, but a lot of cities implemented stay-at-home orders. A lot of cities implemented and counties implemented restrictions on gatherings and mask mandates and all of that stuff. So 2 years ago today in Minnesota, I invited 5 households over, and I think we had 15 people scheduled to be in the house. But how different are we today from then? Here in Minnesota, we had a snitch line set up. It was a free 1-800 call. You could call and turn your neighbor in for having a gathering in your home. Your neighbor could look out the window, see that you had people coming into your home for Thanksgiving, and call the snitch line and give your name and your address and have you investigated by, and let's be honest, law enforcement. The governor wasn't coming out. The attorney general's office wasn't going to come out and investigate you. That snitch line would trigger a response to your home by local law enforcement. And depending on your local law enforcement agency, you may or may not get a visit. And I know people who did get visits. I also know someone who called on that day in Thanksgiving of 2020 and reported themselves to the snitch line. I wouldn't necessarily want to admit that out loud that I did that, but I might know somebody who did that. Yeah, I called the snitch line on myself on Thanksgiving of 2020. And I said I would welcome law enforcement to come to my home and stop by and chastise me, castigate me, or write me a ticket for having multiple people in my home. Where have we come from? Where have we arrived, and where are we going as a republic? Thanksgiving is foundationally and fundamentally the first national holiday of the United States Republic. long before we fought the war in 1776, long before preachers and pastors and lay theologians of the colonies of Great Britain here in the North American territories, long before those people started to preach against the tyranny of King George, started to uh, incite the men of their congregations and even the women of their congregations to step up and to say enough is enough, to throw off these shackles of tyranny and bondage that were being enforced on them. Long before that, a group of separatists gathered in northern New England, what we now refer to euphemistically as New England, in Plymouth, and they celebrated the very first Thanksgiving long before the inception of the Republic had happened philosophically and on paper, parchment, here in this great nation. And those people specifically fled tyranny and persecution and unlawful and unrighteous prosecution at the hands of oligarchs and monarchs and autocrats. And as those people traveled across the North Atlantic Ocean, and as they approached the landfall aboard the Mayflower, they wrote the Mayflower Compact. And the Mayflower Compact was a penning of dissidents. It was a penning of a declaration of liberty. It was a penning of a declaration of values that far surpass anything that most Americans hold dear today. And they stepped off the Mayflower, and they stepped off into their new colony that they fled to be away from the stranglehold of the English Empire. And they launched an experiment that we still recognize today, whether we acknowledge it or not, on Thanksgiving. Those pilgrims, the Puritans, people that we mock, people that we refer to in ways as if they were backwards. And we use the Puritan word to condemn anybody that we think is harsh and judgmental and has too high of standards. Oh, you're so puritanical. Isn't that ironic? The people that gave us the holiday that many of you are gathering to celebrate by getting wasted on cheap beer and free food from friends and family members, that you can buy without any thought, that you can prepare without any real labor on your part, because you think that laboring in the kitchen on Thanksgiving Day is hard work. The people that gave us this freaking holiday that so many of you are celebrating in a shallow, self-centered, man-centered, materialistic way, gave rise to the movement of liberty and freedom and the pursuit of life that so many of us have taken for granted. Do you understand that? Do you understand that Thanksgiving has become the very thing that the Puritans would have hated, because it's a mocking of the work and of the labor that went into them surviving? And contrary to all of the garbage and contrary to all of the misinformation that's out there, the Puritans weren't these evil, white, horrible people that wandered around northern North America, northern New England, slaughtering the natives. They made peace with the natives in ways that others never could and never tried. And they recognized in the natives a kindred spirit to be free and to be a blessing to others. Diametrically opposed religious worldviews, by the way. Diametrically opposed. But on that first Thanksgiving, a bunch of puritanical Puritans sat down with the native population of North America in peace and celebrated the fight that was their survival. So that over 200 years later, a bunch of you can get soused and worry about who's going to outscore who in a stupid Romanesque Colosseum-like sporting event that's meant to entertain you to death. While all around you, everyone is forgetting that for the last 2 years, we have been oppressed, we have been controlled, and we have been beaten down by a narrative from our regimists. You will live as we tell you to live. You will conduct yourselves as we tell you to conduct yourselves. You will comply. And it's still happening, but so many of you have forgotten that 2 years ago, many of you were not willing to risk discomfort to gather with the people you love the most. Some of you are awake, and some of you are still coming awake. Touche, Ken Johnston. The English Empire as we know it today didn't exist, but it was still an empire of the British Isles. Like that, not everybody in what we refer to Great Britain is English. Okay, so the English Empire, the British Empire, however you want to refer to it, the British Isles, the Scots are different, the English are different, the Irish are different, the Welsh are different, Ireland is different, but it was still under their control. It was a bunch of nations controlled by one nation. That's an empire. Anyway, thank you for the historical check. But they were fleeing. There again, the Pilgrims were fleeing. The Puritans were fleeing religious persecution, political persecution. And at that time, religious and political persecution were the same in Great Britain. They were one and the same because you had to be approved by the state to worship as you saw fit, because therefore it wasn't worshiping as you saw fit. You had to worship the way they said to worship, and you had to be licensed to worship the way they wanted you to be licensed. And if you refused, you were imprisoned, and that's what they were fleeing. So, empire or not, that's tyranny. But we've forgotten them. And what we do remember of them is mostly, a trope, a made-up trope of how evil they were and how wicked they were and all these horrible things that they did, which 98% of it's untrue. And we look back with hindsight being what it is and say, oh, I'm so glad we're so much more advanced than the Pilgrims. Let me ask you this. Based on the way you think today, well, not you. If you're watching, it's probably not the case. But based on the way the vast majority of people in your family, the vast majority of people in your circle of friends and coworkers think, would we be even able to have this conversation today? Or would we still be English subjects? We'd still be English subjects based on the way most Americans operate today, because we want to be entertained to death. We want cheap, we want easy, we want free, but we don't want liberty, and we don't want the responsibility that comes with it. Which is why snitch lines created by your overlords in 2020 were a thing. It's why we've lost so much. So ask yourselves, what is there to be thankful for today? As you look around you, as you look across the table, without asking a question, without trying to disrupt the family get together, without trying to, shake down your table mates for a hard and fast answer, listen to them. Listen to how they talk. Listen to how they interact. Listen to the things that they hold dear. Listen to what's important to them. And ask yourselves, are these the kind of people that are going to fight for liberty? Are these the kind of people that had it within themselves to rise up in the midst of uncertainty with almost a guaranteed failure set before them, but still be willing to attempt? Because what we learned 2 years ago is that the vast majority of Americans are not interested in standing up and fighting. They're not interested in standing up and keeping for themselves that which has been guaranteed to them by the God of nature. They're subservient. And some of them are the toughest people you might know. Some of them are blowhards who talk about how much they love this republic, how much they love their country. Ken, it's fine. I don't mind what you're saying. I'm not saying it's inaccurate. It's just kind of missing the. Yeah, seriously, Ken, don't worry about it. I like the correction. Maybe we can do a conversation stream about sometime. I'm making a different point. The vast majority of people that we know are not interested. They're just not. But the ones of you that are watching, or the ones of you that might share this, or whether it gets 50 views or 500 views or 1,000 views, I'll be lucky if this gets 100, because they're really working to suppress me again, not the government, YouTube. Most of you will fight and will continue to fight. Dana will, Sarah will, anybody else, But the people you're surrounded by right now just haven't experienced enough to go with you. But are you different than you were 2 years ago? And that's what I want you to ask yourselves. Are you different? Are you better today for what you've gone through for the last 2 years, no matter how hard it might have been? Dana's watching. She lost her mom. Sarah's watching. I know that she's different than she was when I first met her. But are you different? And if you are different, are you different to the positive or to the negative? If you walked out of these last 2 years and you said, I'm done, I'm not fighting anymore, then you're different to the negative. But if you've walked through these last 2 years and you are still dedicated to fighting, and you're dedicated to being a voice, no matter how many people are listening to you, then you're different to the positive. And I will stand by you gladly, arm in arm, regardless of differences in our worldviews, in the sense of where we come from a spiritual perspective, libertarian versus paleo-conservative versus conservative. But if you're different to the positive and you are willing to be a voice for the voiceless, if you're willing to challenge people to stand up and fight, then today is your day. While they're all stuffing their faces and getting drunk and watching football and watching parades and dog shows and all of that stuff, those tropes, which none of them are bad in and of themselves. But if that's what Thanksgiving has become for you and your family, if that's what everybody around you is about, is how much they can get drunk today and how much they can enjoy having the day off so that they can go out shopping tomorrow, then you have no idea how lost you are. And you have no idea what it is you are giving up by being comforted in your ease, in your supposed prosperity. So 2 years removed from when all of this garbage started, and I would tell you it goes further back than that, but 2 years removed from when all of this has started, we're still in danger. And being allowed to gather with your friends and family to get drunk and fat and sassy and stuff yourselves is just the regime placating you into passivity and compliance. And the minute you get out of hand, they will yank that rug out from underneath you. Like Lucy yanking the football away from Charlie Brown. And most of you, like Charlie Brown, will continue to trust the government like Charlie trusted Lucy. I'm not that person. And I would hope that on Thanksgiving, Sarah, I'm not picking on you for going shopping. That's not my point. But I don't think you're living for that either. Thanksgiving isn't a holiday about comfort and peace and ease. It's a remembrance of sacrifice, difficulty, and struggle. If you can remember that, then you have something to be thankful for. I don't know when I'm doing my next stream. I don't know when my next show is going to be. But I love and respect every single one of you. And I honestly pray that you have a blessed day and that you wake up tomorrow changed to the positive and continuing to fight. Till next time, my friends, fight for your liberty. It is yours. Fight for your freedom. It belongs to you. And Sic Semper Tyrannis.
We are go for liftoff in T-minus 30.
Stand by for further instructions, Minnesota Black Robe Regiment.
Secondary guidance systems engaged.
Minnesota Black Robe Regiment, it will be on my mark.
All systems are a go. All systems are a go.
Minnesota Black Robe Regiment, you are over the target. You are authorized to fire at